All right. Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Dorsey's Resource. The time now is 10:08 a.m., March 2nd. The title of this video is going to be Were Secret / Private TDA Accounts Real? Massive cover-up. Question mark prior to that. But first, as usual, before we get started, I'd like to give a disclaimer. This video is for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only. Please understand everyone's individual circumstance or situation may be different. It's up to every individual competent person to please do his or her own homework and research regarding the matter being discussed. This information is not to be construed as legal advice. In the event you feel you need to seek a competent professional, it is encouraged that you do so at one's own leisure. Dorsey's Resource channel is not liable or responsible for this information being discussed. Everyone is responsible for their own affairs. With that being said, these are simply my opinions. All rights are reserved. Now, to get in the topic, once again, it's going to be worst secret / private TDA accounts real, massive cover-up. I intend to examine, to go into this. I want to acknowledge you all in the chat really quick. I may come back later if I have time. Styles Davis says, peace, King. Thank you. Greetings to you. Thank you for joining. Appreciate you. I want to delve right into, without further ado, I was informed at one time many years ago that these transactions would go through with no reversals. I was also informed back then a particular merchant or institution became suspicious because they saw the names of banks come up in their database as people, I heard. So they were listed as the names of people. Hence, this cover-up. What happened is back then, in order for them to be more covert, they started requiring the use of a business name or trust. I heard allegedly. That's why years later, people are also having trouble accessing their account. But you're a legal person. I forgot to put this in my notes because I do have some notes with me. It's coming to my remembrance. You're a legal person. Also in the court system, is referred to as the in lingus, a legal fiction. Believe it or not, that's another term. It's also a trust account, and it's an organization. It's a number of different types of entities. It's an estate. It's an organization, which organization is a general term that can comprise many different types of entities, by the way. It's a generalized term, but you're in lingus. This is what I did a video on this previously, by the way, and kudos to the heavy hitters out there. I won't say the name, you know, but I'm just giving credit where credit is due, that I do my research, and I learned it from a heavy hitter out there. By the way, I have mentioned his name in the past, so kudos to them for sharing, breaking this information down. I encourage you, look up the definition of in lingus. This will provide the evidence. I had that in the title, but YouTube only allows you so much in the title of the description. So I took it out and I put massive cover-up because I wanted to go into why this is a massive cover-up. This is not hearsay. Now you have to research, because I'm doing, this is a vlog video versus a screen capture video. And you guys know the situation with that. I won't delve into, but I've done screen capture videos in the past. If you go back on my channel, in case you're curious on particular topics, to show the evidence. So I do have the evidence. It is out there, but you have to do the research and homework. This is also why I give a disclaimer, by the way. This is not legal advice. Well, however, from my opinion, I'm providing the investigative research that I've done, and the reason I, in my opinion, believe this is a massive cover-up, no doubt. And many of you out there have agreed with me on that. So the legal fiction doubles back as a trust account, by the way. And reason I put secret / private, I don't want to get into a semantics game, but you can look up the definition of semantics. A lot of people were fighting over whether it's a secret account or private account. That's like semantics. If you look up the definition of the word secret and private, they practically mean the same thing. It's invisible or hidden, by the way. So let's not play this semantics game. A lot of people out there, trolls, etc., play that game. That's something to pay attention to, because one thing to keep the left-right divided, they use tactics, subterfuge, by the way, is to keep people divided. So you got to pay attention to that. by the way. Just something to keep in mind. So, by the way, so I was going over that I was informed many years ago these transactions would go through with no reversals. I was also informed a particular merchant or institution became suspicious when they saw the names of banks pop up or show up in their database as people were listed, like names of people were listed as banks, because you are also as a bank, by the way. This is gets into the high level stuff, so the heavy hitters out there would know what I'm talking about, because I said I gear my channel for a lot of newbies to break down, but I've also talked about advanced information. So I'm just kind of going over a little tidbits of some things that are advanced, by the way. It may take months to research and find out some of the things that I do go over that are advanced for newbies out there. So hence this cover up. So to cover this up, they started requiring, this is, I don't know the exact time period, many years ago, for you to use the names of businesses or a trust for these transactions to go through, or they will block them if you had not submitted the Federal Reserve Operating Circular application, which is still listed on their website. Now you have to do your research, and down the line they had set up something where you had to register with the SEC, Securities Exchange Commission, for other related types of or private types of transactions. Wasn't always necessarily a requirement. I'm going to get to that later in particular, but there was a massive cover. But specifically a couple years ago, in relation to that TDA movement that broke out in reference to PayPal, for example, these payments were going through PayPal after you verified the FRB. That's the acronym for Federal Reserve Bank. It was a process that was working at one time. So they could not have been doing these exchanges by coincidence. Their website had a procedure in place to add this private bank. Once done correctly, the image would show up. And I had the evidence. I downloaded a video from a whistleblower, Ronald Renifort, if I'm pronouncing his name, his channel correctly. His whole channel was shut down, deleted by YouTube. Oh, mighty coincidence. And this was back in 2017. Sometime, I believe, or maybe going into 2018. Don't quote me, but this information broke out around 2017, summer of 2017. That's when I caught it, the middle of 2017. I had some more notes with me. I'm just trying to reference, get my find out where I got my bookmark at. Okay, here I'm close. Okay. Want to make sure, try not to forget, I'll try not to lose that, but to kind of stay on track. This is some high-powered information for you guys, by the way. So I just want to make sure we're talking about, in the title of this video, I'm covering why the TDA / private secret accounts were real, and I'm just trying to get my bookmarks together because I have some notes for you guys, by the way. So when these payments were going through PayPal, after you verify them, they had a process, a procedure. Now I heard allegedly, once this was discovered or went too viral from particular videos, I won't say particular channels out there, it's been alleged that major pressure was put on PayPal, allegedly by the FBI, the Federal Reserve, allegedly some type of procedure to shut down. So they changed their web hosting form, how you would access this account. And I do have the evidence. I sent it to a video broker down south that contacted me some time ago who was aware of this, by the way, just to show you guys verbal evidence. Some of you guys are aware. I'm going to go into more evidence. I have some notes, very powerful notes. This is solidified, despite what a lot of gatekeepers, minions out there, underlinks, trolls, deep state operatives, they're lying. They're giving major disinfo agents, bad actors, but there is a cover up. So if these accounts don't go through, I'll say I did give a disclaimer. You will use at your own risk now, but I'm going to go over why they were breaking the law. And this there's massive cover-up. The Federal Reserve and IRS, Internal Revenue Service, which is connected to the Department of Treasury, and there's different divisions, and they are related to one another. has been complicit in this as well. Mainly, it comes from the Federal Reserve Bank, by the way. And there's multiple accounts that you have too, by the way, not just one. Another thing I was told years ago, the IRS master file, some of you all may be familiar with, that's a printout that the IRS, it shows which companies are using your SSN, your social security number, because when they set the IRS up, it's actually a foreign corporation through like the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. That's why they had to list their headquarters is in Puerto Rico, like the main headquarters. That's why there's another Secretary of Treasury, not just in DC, but in San Juan. They had to put them offshore, because if you look up the legal definitions, the legal jurisdiction of District of Columbia, it was all offshore. There's like a jurisdiction within a jurisdiction, a separate entity. And in certain Black's Law legal dictionaries, look up the definition of District of Columbia years ago. Different versions, they hide certain words, certain terms. So look up also the definition of United States. Look up the definition of United States, but you also want to look up District of Columbia. And the United States is a federal corporation pursuant to Title 28, Section 3002, Section 15, subsection C. That's, once again, it states unequivocally, if you go on Yahoo, Google search, United States is a federal corporation pursuant to and reference to Title 28, Section 3002, subsection 15, Section C. Look it up. It states this unequivocally, because a particular gatekeeper some time ago, I've already debunked a lot of lies and stuff that was put out there, tried to say that that's not true. And I'm giving you the evidence to look up verbally online. This is a vlog video. You know, I can do screen captures, which I've explained later down the road. I will be able to go more in depth. And there's kudos to the people who do teach this type of redemption information online, by the way, that do check out different channels out there. There's those that are high powered that put out information that complements and confirms what I'm going over is accurate, highly accurate, by the way. So just want to put that out there on a side note. Also, point number 3, I knew a guy at one time, and I had a friend that's a stockbroker years ago, who could look up what your QSIP is and what it's trading at. I also attended an event some years ago, by the way, where they stated they were doing that at the event. By the way, and I think there was a previous group that went through prior to the group I had went through during the time period of 2009, by the way. But there was groups prior that went through, and I heard that, and there was previous seminars. You had to meet these requirements, so different people would make different events. It was going on like throughout the almost really the entire year, and going into the future and years down the line. And you had groups allegedly that went through prior, but they stated that they could look that up and even use a Federal Reserve note, a dollar bill, by the way, which for example, I like to use examples to show you guys proof, evidence. By the way, pull out maybe a couple ducats, maybe one that's more visual. I'm pulling okay, some lesser bills, you know. But you have, if you look on, just in reference to these QSIP numbers, by the way, like here, let me see what letters has F on it. Notice the similarities. Now, I wouldn't have learned this had I not attended that event, by the way. I see some of you guys in the chat. I'm gonna get to the chat section sometime to acknowledge you guys. I want to thank you guys for joining. In case you're joining me, you're currently watching Dorsey's Resource. The time now is 10:22 a.m. Eastern time. The date is March the 2nd, and the title of this video is, I'm delving into the reason why a secret/private TDA accounts were real, by the way, and the massive cover-up. I'm going over notes, by the way. So I want to thank you guys for joining me. I'm your host, John Dorsey the third, to be more specific. I do have a suffix at the end of my name. That's my government name. However, I'm going over once again, in case you're joining me for the first time, why the secret TDA accounts were real, the massive cover-up that took place. Point number 4, I knew of a person in the legal profession who knew how to successfully discharge payments from a closed account. He was a paralegal, by the way. I'm no longer actually actively in touch with this person, but he explained, and then remember the difference, somebody that's a member of the bar association or has a P number, they're also issued P numbers. They're like a lower version of a lawyer, just like a LPA is licensed public accountant, is a lower version of a CPA, of a certified public accountant. Then a higher version would be a tax attorney, which means they're not only an accountant, but they're also an attorney, by the way. See, there's some correlations there. By the way, a lot of people don't delve into this, and they knew how to enforce it if the instrument was turned down or refused, by the way. And these accounts are ultimately tied to your SSN, which is connected to your exemption account. In accounting, it's referred to as your auto tris is the exemption account. That's without the dashes. There's 2 different accounts, even pertaining to the SSQ trust. Pertains to the numbers on the front of your SSN card, your Social Security card. That's a SSQ trust. The numbers on the back that people were using to try to access the so-called secret account, private account, dealing with the Federal Reserve. Some of them would have red numbers. Sometimes it would be in blue. Still, sometimes if it had a different color, that meant that was your master account, by the way. And I can get to that later if I have time, because this is a whole class, a whole education. This gets into securities, marketable securities, non-marketable securities. This is accounting, by the way. This gets into banking, estates and trust, finance. This is how these different subjects overlap. Now you have to ask, why isn't some of these gatekeepers out there explaining this? Like, I'm going into detail, educating you guys, giving you guys, real powerful, high-powered information to connect the pieces together. I'm just saying, if they want you to believe that their facts matter and that they want to tell you that we're not credible, they label us sovereign citizens or SCs out there, because they want you to think that we're all conspiracy theorists. No, I've done my research. I'm college educated. I have an associate's degree in business administration. I was 13 classes away from a bachelor's degree if I decided to go back. I was also a perfect straight A student when I was in 8th grade, by the way. Excelled. I got all type of awards that particular year at an award ceremony at a private Christian school, Evangel Christian Academy, to be more specific, by the way, some years ago, before I went to high school, before I started 9th grade, by the way. So I also was a member of the National Honor Society, who I got that book years ago where that actor I found out that played in that movie Black Panther, Chadwick Boseman, whatever. I was part of that National Honor Society where you could opt back then to have your photo taken. That means I'm an astute, I'm an academic, I'm brilliant, with a beautiful mind, by the way. They made a movie called Beautiful Mind years ago, which I saw, by the way. Very good movie, interesting, by the way. But I just want to assure you that the information at Dorsey's Resource, I'm your host, John Dorsey, that I go over is highly accurate. If you do the research, and I said you can't be a weekend warrior like some years ago, I was contemplating on going into the military. This is where I get this term from. A lot of active duty soldiers would say when I wanted to go reserve or part-time, they would say, oh, you're just a weekend warrior. Now, I'll say similar to this information, you have to take an in-depth look and research in this. This is not for the weak. You have to really do your research and investigate in depth. And when I first got in this information, I started researching this and learning about this back in 2004. I knew about this since 2003, but 2004, it was the breakout year. I woke up to this information. I did a lot of reading, by the way. This is important. A lot of people ask me, say, hey, Dorsey, where should I start from? I say start off just doing a lot of reading. Download the free information that's still available online. Now, Scribs took a lot of those documents and made you have to sign up for a membership or whatever, pay a fee like per month to get access to those documents. A lot of those documents on Scribs used to be free years ago. That shows I have experience I've been out way longer than these gatekeepers, so I'm giving you, I'm an insider, but from a fair, honest critique, by the way. So you're getting a fair, balanced perspective. You're getting real news. You're not getting a troll, no one hiding behind a fake account. You're getting someone that's giving their real name, showing a real face. So you're getting legitimate content, by the way. And that's something important to question if some of these gatekeepers want you to believe that they're exposing fraud or that real facts matter, by the way. Just something to keep in mind. So, okay, I'm just going over some things. I'm at the at my other I call plantation job, by the way. Okay, I was just making sure there's a truck coming through the parking lot. I find this stuff to be ironic. Like sometimes people they may be able to tell that I'm online or through my phone. This parking lot is kind of small, so I'm just looking around, so just so you guys know, by the way. So I'm paying attention, by the way. So going over once again, I went over I knew a person in the legal profession that had successfully, and I say you have to do this at your own risk. This is why I give a disclaimer. I don't recommend, in my opinion, unless you have the skill set, the wherewithal to attempt this. This is why I do give a disclaimer, by the way, because this stuff, some of this information is highly advanced, and you have to know and be prepared. Now, there are ways to protect yourself. There's secrets that I know how to bulletproof yourself, by the way, how to protect yourself if you get in harm's way. But some newbies, people out there don't know this, don't understand. And this is why I was also told some of the members of the good cabal, similar to the bad cabal, but there is differences. They fear certain people teaching this information or going public, because there's the concern, I was told, is they're concerned about new people trying this information and messing up. So I do understand that is a legitimate concern. I understand where they're coming from. That's why I said, when I give a disclaimer, everyone is responsible for their own affairs. This is not legal advice. This is not financial advice. This is not accounting advice. In the event you feel you need to seek a competent professional, it is encouraged that you do so at your own leisure. I'm just going over my research that I've done, that I've verified, validated, by the way. I also knew a guy some years ago whose payment to the IRS in Michigan was stolen. It was for state debt, and it was an acting third-party firm that was contracted on behalf of the IRS. And they had a P.O. box, so he figured out how to track down the physical address and went up there, and they zeroed out his account right on the spot. When he threatened he was going to basically take legal action, they were scared. They were shaking like this, because they knew they had committed fraud. He actually tried to pay it legitimately on the public side, actually with the Federal Reserve note, but legally you cannot pay a debt with a debt. I won't go into the details, but some of you already know. When you know about legally, a Federal Reserve note is not money legally. So there's a distinct difference, and we get into accounting, but I'm just giving a story. A guy that I know personally, by the way, he had a payment was stolen. He went up there because there's people who say, well, Dorsey, where are they getting the money from? By the way, that's why I went over in a previous video, fractional reserve banking. I went over, look up the book Modern Money Mechanics, and look up fractional reserve banking. This shows evidence they pull the money out of thin air, by the way, because some of the gatekeepers out there will have you believe that that the SCs make this stuff up, that we don't have a debt. We're not in the United States. It's not a corporation. We're not in debt. I say go to nationaldebtclock.org, by the way. For example, go check out Title 28, Section 3002, subsection 15, subsection C. Once again, Title 28, Section 3002, pursuant to, by the way, in reference to, because this is not legal advice. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm just saying you don't have to have a license to practice the codes. And in this state, I had an elder who gave me, there's an actual code statute that stated that specifically, by the way. But sometimes you have to understand how you're contracting and understand different types of jurisdictions, by the way, and how I'm going over this information. And it's the reason why I gave a disclaimer. So I'm going to go over also, there's people that say, because some people are doing business as that legal fiction, U.S. citizen, that implies a contract, by the way, particular status. However, pursuant to, in accordance with HJR 192, June 5th, 1933, House Joint Resolution 192, codified Public Law Chapter 4848, Statutes at Large 112. This is in the Statutes at Large, which is very powerful. It is a remedy that in part states that, you can look this up on Google, the federal government will discharge all of our debts, public and private, dollar for dollar. This has been one of the best kept secrets in this bankrupt nation. That was on a side note. And I would say after that, look up usdebtclock.org. Also look up USC Title 12, Section 411. Look up USC, I believe Title 12, Section 411. Look up Title 12, Section 95A. Look up USC Title 12, I believe it's Section 95A. By the way, don't quote me. But also, I just previously mentioned, look up USC Title 12, Section 411. There's something that pertains to even subtracting from the national deficit. Oh boy, when you find out what they put in place, some things I may not go as in depth with for this video, because I'm trying not to be long-winded. I'm trying to give you guys the evidence why the title of this video, where secret/private TDA accounts were real, and the proof behind this massive cover-up. It's because there are those that say, well, you have to be in the right status, Dorsey, to access these accounts. No, they did some fraudulent things, by the way, like these reversals. When I just mentioned earlier, PayPal changed their whole platform, by the way, but they were accepting the Federal Reserve Bank at one time. Interesting. They're not accepting it anymore. Mighty funny. And this happened as of 2017, by the way. Yeah, you see, I'm giving you guys verbal evidence to look up, by the way. You know, on the record, foreign on the record, let the record show. You know, by the way, because you have those haters out there, bad actors, gatekeepers, agents, minions, trolls, underlinks, villains, henchmen, deep state operatives will have you believe that this is not true. And that's, no, I'm going over accurate information. This is reputable, by the way, and I'm credible. And then a lot of times they're hiding behind a fake account. They're not showing a real face, a real name, but they want you to believe that their facts matter and that they're exposing fraud. No, I'm exposing they're the fraud. I'm going over the legitimate side of information. Not saying you don't have scam artists, con artists out there, but I go over the legitimate stuff to debunk what those individuals I just mentioned, by the way. So I want to assure you, you're getting reputable information here at Dorsey's Resource. Credible stuff, high power, by the way. Let me find my other notes I took to kind of delve into. Okay, I'll get my bookmark up. Okay, now just to let you guys know, banking institutions, when this was changed, and corporations are allowed to tap in to our accounts as intermediaries. They're authorized to use our auto tryst. That's the social security number without the dashes. This is in accounting, by the way. This gets into finance, accounting, and this is a private side. So just because you have some accountants who worked in corporate America, by the way, let me address that too, because some people may wonder why they've never been taught this information before. And I did a video already where it's hiding in plain sight. There's several collegiate courses that teach this information if you have a trained eye and you know what to look for. Because the elites, it's alleged, were not only taught by their parents, but were sent to private schools by invitation only. Many of them studied out of encyclopedias. Some people, when they became of age at a different level, were sent to private seminars by invitation only, by the way. Just something to keep in mind, you know, by the way. So the QSIP numbers are assigned to bonds once they're created. Our BC, that stands for birth certificate, is pledged as collateral, where they created bonds off of it. So there's a connection with the SSN to the BC. and individuals that say it's not a bond, it is a form of a registered securities instrument, by the way. So it is a securities instrument, by the way. It's used as collateral as well as the Social Security card. Once again, banking institutions and corporations can act with the right credentials, can act as intermediaries, are allowed to tap in to these accounts, and they're authorized to use the auto trust, but under certain circumstances too, by the way. And that's sometimes based on how you contract, because these accounts, by the way, people were wondering why they're linked to other bank accounts and why they work, because there's a document where Congress put out some years ago that the currency is backed by the American people, where it says that you back the credit, that these FRNs, these Federal Reserve notes, states it was a congressional session. It said us back the currency, by the way. This was actual. I have a document. Some other people have it as well. I'm going to try to locate it again specifically. It's on my thumb drive or whatever, because I have lots of documents as well as many other people that I know, by the way. But this was put out there, by the way. It says we are the credit, by the way. So there's a procedure, there's a methodology to how they set this up, by the way. Without further ado, I'm gonna get to the chat real quick. Seems like we got a few people in here. Not sure how to pronounce Cindy CN Loach. I'll say Loach says peace to you. Thank you for joining. Ava Chosen says greetings and happy risings, grand risings. Ava, thank you for joining. Darren Jackson says appreciate the info. You're a true soldier. Appreciate you. Thank you, Darren. Appreciate that. Fox Chick says glad to see you're still sticking in there even with all the negativity. Appreciate you, Fox Chick. Thank you. I almost was about to call you by your other name, because some of my subscribers out here I do know personally, even though some I may have never met face to face. It's a pleasure meeting you. Camilla Barnes says good morning, greetings to you, by the way. You know, I did go over it. I am aware how they do a play on the words, by the way, because I learned this at that seminar I attended some years ago, because they say we're not in mourning because you can cast certain spells with the types of words that you say, but I understand the context and positivity, so they encouraged us to use greetings, by the way. You know, even they say when you answer the phone, they say you shouldn't say hello, because hell and oh, that you're casting the spell, but you should say greetings. So greetings to you. Thank you guys for joining. Just to acknowledge you guys in the chat. Sonia Jackson says good stuff, Dorsey 21. Supreme L says what up, Dorsey? Peace to the God. Peace, Supreme. Thank you for joining. Islam to you, by the way. Greetings to you out there. Thank you, family, all you all for joining. Now to further go over more evidence before I shut this video down, these are some notes that I took, and basically why to validate why the secret SSN account is real, and there's a massive cover-up, by the way, that ensued back around 2017. It ramped up into effect. I discovered this the summer of 2017, by the way. It says this guy looked up his deceased brother's account and it was still collecting interest. I heard that story. I don't know that individual personally, but I just put that together. This is something food for thought for you guys to research. Some years back, I looked my BC up on the Treasury Direct, and it showed the amount my bond was trading at. I also spoke to a broker, I believe it was last year, sometime, or maybe the year before. I can't remember specifically. And he showed me how to go on Fidelity. I have the notes, but I don't remember specifically. I also referenced to that event I attended some years ago. This was an actual seminar. I have documents and evidence to validate, to support that I actually attended that event. And also audios, by the way. There's proof, and there's other people that I know I wouldn't have never met if I didn't attend that event. And they have evidence as well, by the way. But this broker that I met, that's down south of where I'm at, because I'm up north on the East Coast part, stated he showed me how to go through Fidelity and see what how that's being done, by the way. It's real interesting. I hear there was different types of ways to do it, by the way. Also, I did mention this earlier. Business and the law, accounting book, law and business. It might, in some colleges it's called business and the law. It might be just business and law. It's an accounting book. My friend's wife, she gave me, talked about marketable and non-marketable securities. She gave me the workbook. And recently I actually looked at in my friend's library when I was over there. I looked at the physical hardback book that she kept, that she still references to, because she still works in the accounting field. So of course she still has the master book, the hardback book, because you know in college, which I had college classes, you have a hardback book in many cases in accounting, and then you have a paperback book. So I took accounting as well. I took accounting in high school and I took accounting in college, by the way. So some classes from high school overlap with college, by the way. And I kind of went over a little bit of my credentials earlier. Also was part of the DAPSET program. Was a preparatory program for advanced students. It's called Detroit Area Pre-College Engineering Program some years ago, by the way. I went through. Because I was I believe magna cum laude my 8th grade year at Evangel Christian Academy. I got a lot of awards. My high school I went to, I graduated 28th in the class. I could have been higher than that. I won't go into the details, but I averaged a 3.0 GPA average when they averaged my 9th grade all the way up to my senior year. My 9th grade year, I went to a different school. I went to Evangel, and I went to a different school, public school. So my GPA in high school, just on a side note, by the way, was 3.0. So I did make National Honor Society. They give you like the necklace or whatever, like that has the logo on it with the charm, almost like a gold medal or Olympic medal. By the way, it hangs around the neck. I had that. So just kind of going over then. When I started college, I won't go into the beginning part, but within my major, I went into business administration management. Within my major specifically, I was at least 3.5 GPA was my grade point average within my major, business administration and management, by the way, just on a side note. Point number 4, the reason why these secret/private TDA accounts were real, a third-party check verification merchant looked up my SSN with the routing numbers I gave them for my account over the phone. This was telecheck, by the way. And I had some more notes after that I'm going to jump ahead. And they told me, the lady, I had never met her before, but she confirmed. This was a verification service, telecheck, by the way. And I gave her my SSN number, and I even explained, I called multiple times, I talked to several of them, and even told a couple of the representatives that account number, I told them afterwards, was my SSN. And then it was an account, by the way. I spoke to them and thoroughly explained. And did you know earlier on, they told me that account that was linked to the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago. This is what they told me. I will quote, this is evidence that this was a cover-up. They told me, I swear on both my grandmother's graves, with my right hand, I swear on the penalty of perjury over both my grandmother's graves. They told me that paper checks are only allowed with the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta. It doesn't allow electronic payments, but they said, however, call this number 866-234, and I won't say whatever after that because I don't want you guys, because people actually, I won't get into, will call up. But this is what the lady from Telecheck, she gave me a number, and I called it up, and by that time it had gone so viral, the Federal Reserve Bank, with the massive cover-up that was going on, had made it go to like a voice prompt, by the way, where they were directing people to, I guess, where you couldn't reach a live person because their phone maybe were ringing off the hook at that time when this had gone viral back in summer of 2017, by the way. So this is also like a recap. She also looked up that other account routing number with the Bureau of Public Debt, Parkersburg. She checked this and she said it allowed electronic payments and paper checks. Ooh, it's a cover-up. And I mentioned PayPal earlier removed that option to attach the Federal Reserve Bank. I have the evidence, and I sent that to some other people. There's other people out there have the evidence as well. And there was a guy, a whistleblower, Ronald. His whole channel was just deleted by YouTube with No question why. You know, whistleblower, he was going over some heavy, high-powered stuff at the time, by the way, around that time period. So she mentioned, the lady from Telecheck mentioned, call that number to have the Federal Reserve Bank set up electronic payments. Wow. This is evidence. Massive cover-up. Proof. 5 years ago, our SSN, years ago, I brought information. I actually learned this from, give credit where credit is due, to Legal Redress Commission, aka Brett Jones. By the way, he goes by the name Eon. This was some years ago to show you how well studied I am, that I research other people I follow. This is to show even my experience in this. By me studying this information longer, you're going to get accurate information that's reputable compared to what some gatekeepers or trolls or minions want to have you believe. By the way, I have more experience than they do. That means I have a trained eye. I've been watching, I've been monitoring, investigating, researching, studying this information. I did give a disclaimer, so you're going to have to do your research and homework, which I encourage you. Don't take my word for what I'm saying. Look this information up to validate. But years ago, our SSN would say account number on them. I don't know if you still can. You can look up online. They had, older versions of people. Appeared to be some people that had been deceased, but they have a blank version. Why did they take this off the current Social Security cards? It's not on there anymore. But the older versions used to actually say account number, because some people were trying to say, some gatekeepers out there, minions, were trying to say it's not an account number. See, I'm going through a recap of those lies that this one particular gatekeeper in particular, I'm showing you the evidence, how they were blatantly giving false, misleading information. And I'm showing you evidence, verbal evidence to research to back, and it's already been proven by not just myself, but other content creators who have shared redemption education related to this that can validate and substantiate what I'm saying. And there's channels like Free Inhabitant, that's now Chancellor Solicitor General. Eon, by the way, can validate. These are reputable people. You know, there's other channels, by the way, Kelby Smith, his advocates, by the way. Now, I want to say on a side note, there are different processes, different procedures, by the way. And redemption is just a general term. You have to look at the definition. Redeeming. You're redeeming yourself from what? Redemption. Or you're trying to obtain remedy or reach a higher plateau of status. Something you're trying to achieve. It was a movement. So you had redemption, movement. People like to play a semantics game and make it more than what it is. But I don't try to force my beliefs on people. You have to make your own assessment or judgment to validate this is real. That's why I'm doing this video, is to substantiate why this information is real, why this is credible. By the way, I already have a lot of notes compiled. Yet the Federal Reserve and Bureau of Public Debt put out a statement insisting these accounts don't exist and that we're being lied to. And you can obviously see, many of you already know, from the evidence that I've gone over, this is not true. Let me say that again. This is point 6 on my other set of notes. The Federal Reserve and Bureau of Public Debt put out written statements that these accounts don't exist, that they don't offer, but they're private, though. I'll say that. But they're lying when they said that these accounts don't exist. That part is false and misleading. They're not being totally honest. They're being somewhat misleading, by the way. What they're saying is bogus, so they're trying to cover their tracks because this went too public. And now they were caught with their hand in the cookie jar, like when PayPal removed that feature to access where you used to be able to link the Federal Reserve Bank to your PayPal account. That was actually, why was that possible at one time and that's no longer possible? You know, even Amazon, by the way. Just something to think about. As of 2017, you can no longer do that. But you guys get the drift. See what I'm saying? Just research. You know, that's why I'm going over the evidence. This is why Amazon and PayPal, and I would say as well as others, are in cahoots, because they were blocking the payments from the FRB, which is an acronym for Federal Reserve Bank. TDA, that stands for Treasury Direct Accounts. Whereas before, they were going through, if you knew how to access it, by the way. What's fraudulent is how they've been using our Social Security number accounts behind our back. And they didn't ask permission. So to block our access from our own accounts, this is very dirty, by the way. These are egregious crimes. This is also a form of identity theft, theft of intellectual property, by the way, which in the business and law class has a chapter on intellectual property that deals with trademarks, copyrights, doing business as, by the way, DBAs related to estates. I already mentioned about the story of the paralegal earlier. That was kind of my other note, so I can skip that point. I went over that story already. So you can go back and watch this video and you'll see the routing numbers provided are just used to facilitate a payment from the secret account because our SSN number is attached to the BC bond, which supports other bonds. So you have these different banking codes you can learn. If you go to the Federal Reserve Bank's frbservices.org, how you have those different codes and what those banks, the names, the acronyms stand for Depository Institution, or RF. There was a code coming back called, what is it, RF 34 or something like that, for insufficient funds or limited participation, which shows they were directly manually blocking it. By the way, and I've already gone over, as well as some other people, where I was told from a private event that I actually attended, I can verify. This is another reason why I'm not lying, I'm telling the truth. And they told us that you had to submit the consent application. And I said, I believe it's called, last time I checked, they upgraded their website, which means they changed the format of how it looked. It used to be like gray color. Now it looks better. It's upgraded version. If you go to frbservices.org, you have to look up and research. It would take, I would say, a team of people that are highly astute, brilliant, high IQ, because these elites, it's not that they have, they're necessarily smarter. It's like they have the cheat sheet, the code, and certain people were taught at private seminars by invitation only. It's been stated when these elites, they were taught by their parents and sent to private schools by invitation only. To back this up, some years ago, Pastor Lindsey Williams, who came out as an activist / whistleblower who stated he lived with the elites of the world, put out a DVD. Someone uploaded it on YouTube. I don't know if it's still on YouTube, but you guys can check. If it's not, then I say support Lindsey. I always encourage you guys for documentaries that I've gone over in the past. Support these people because some people have risked their lives. They've even been threatened before to not share this information, even including myself. I've been actually threatened before, but to not share information that shows there's things I have helped people out in the past. I won't go over and all that because the title of this video specifically is pertaining to, I want to go over the credibility, why these accounts existed, the secret / private accounts, and the cover up behind it from the notes I'm reading from. And just to let you guys know, I'm on a time restraint. So after I go over these notes, I'm going to go to the chat and I'm going to wrap the video up, by the way. But I just want to kind of let you guys know I'm still here. And this could be a continuation. And I've talked about this topic before, but this is specifically delving deeper into the cover up of the Treasury Direct. And we had or should have had a right to use them despite without our status being changed pursuant to HJR 192 Public Law 73-10, codified in the statutes at large in reference to Chapter 4848 Statute 112. By the way, that the Treasury, what they did is they consolidated where the Federal Reserve is more so responsible for these discharges that they're blocking. There was other ways to discharge debt, like when people ask about the A for V's, the acceptance for values. Years ago, there were bonds that were going through. Now, I won't go into all the details about that. This gets into some other stuff with the paper T word. I won't say, but there was an investigative journalist some years ago who met with the Secretary of Treasury. I believe his name was Paul H. O'Neill. The investigative journalist, his name was Barton Butts. And even though just because he went to jail, that doesn't mean his research wasn't credible. That was some years later. He tried to instrument And like I said, that gets into a different subject I won't explain, because some people like to play the semantics game to kind of deviate off the subject. But just using this as an example, he did very good research. Kudos to him. He met with the actual Secretary of Treasury. They serve terms just like a president. So after so many years, they nominate or appoint a different person. Looks like years ago at one time, Henry Paulson was Secretary of Treasury. At one time, Timothy Geithner, Jacob Lew. I think our current Secretary of Treasury is Stephen Mnuchin, by the way, just to give you guys a heads up. But I'm going over as verbal evidence for you guys to look up. There used to be a document online that explained how Barton Butts, he was an investigative journalist. He talked about the UCC, and at that time, he did research behind the filings, but he met with the Secretary of Treasury, and this part of the document that I read stated the Secretary of Treasury, I believe it was Paul H. O'Neill, admitted that they did honor negotiable instruments, by the way, but this was like, he told him privately. So it was be something that wasn't public. So they honored discharges. So by law, they had to provide a remedy. So when they started blocking access, even the easy ways, these were very egregious crimes being committed. So I don't want you guys out there to feel like if you ever attempted to access these accounts, but I would, say nowadays proceed with caution. I did give a disclaimer, so I'm not telling anybody to do anything. By the way, check my disclaimer. Everyone is responsible. But however, I'm going over evidence, by the way. But at the same time, I don't want you guys out there, including myself, don't feel guilty if you did try to access them. Because at one time, I was told they used to go through with no reversals many years ago. I don't know the exact time period. And in some other instances. And in one particular instance, I do have success from currently using one of them, despite some of the other reversals that I had gotten. I won't go into the detail about that. I'm actually having success when I linked account together. I just couldn't remember which route number, which particular one I used, but I believe I definitely used my SSN was the account number. And I'm actually having success, and it still goes through for a type of transaction that I do with no reversals, by the way. Ironic compared to some of the other types of transactions I've done with different types of merchants. But this particular one, I have no reversals at all, by the way, which is very interesting. So I know that these accounts are real, by the way, because there was a particular gatekeeper was saying it would be no way that this is real if just because they were going through, because in her way she was saying that it's not real just because they got reversed, but it's being manually done. Some documents say a public official with your state government or within a Federal Reserve Bank is manually blocking them or going through somehow behind the scenes. But however, there's people who reported success stories, and I won't get into, there's other instances of people who are at a certain status now who quote that theirs goes through without a problem. But however, it's kind of hard, to get those people to come forward or share their stories, by the way, like what I'm doing. But there was reports put out there, by the way, that is credible. But I do have something that is working. The reason I won't go into the details about it, because sometimes what you have is gatekeepers, minions, they'll follow my channel, watch the work that I'll put out, and what they'll try to do is, and by their own admission, will try to contact agencies or try to have stuff blocked or shut down. So if I went into the detail about what specifically is working for me, I won't say what it is specifically, go into the details about it. Because if I did, they would kind of contact that corporation or entity and try to have it stopped or blocked and, shut down, so they could try to prove and say, hey, CC, this is not real. Just show you how wicked, how evil these particular people are. These gatekeepers, these minions, these villains, these underlings out there. You see, I'm kind of giving you, so that's why I'm trying to protect you guys as well. My followers, subscribers that are genuine, that want to learn this information, the legitimate side. So you see, I have to try to protect you guys as well from these evil, wicked gatekeepers who want you to believe that their facts matter. They're trying to help you out. And a friend of mine pointed out that what this particular individual is doing is he said he noticed that if there's someone who's in a situation where, let's say they just got out of jail or they're in financial turmoil, and he said, Dorsey, you're offering hope. that if there was a way that they could access this account and that could zero out their debt, that could free up some of the stress that they have or problems they're going through. But according to this other gatekeeper that says this is not real, this villain, he says she's making people like not have hope. You know, that is discouraging to people intentionally. That this, he says, this could be something that provides people hope. He noticed this from the outside looking in. You see, and he's on the fence about, you know, this type of information. But given a fair, balanced, honest critique, he noticed that. So just something to think about, to keep in mind. If individuals say they're really trying to help out and expose fraud, but they won't get on Wells Fargo Bank, who just settled a $3 billion lawsuit, which was reported on Friday, February 21st by ABC World Evening News by David Muir. And they said that Wells Fargo Bank targeted minorities, college students, and seniors. This was actually aired on World News Tonight, Friday, February 21st. And sometimes I watch the nightly news with Lester Holt. So this was something that was public, reported on by David Muir. But some of these gatekeepers and minions won't report on Wells Fargo Bank, the egregious crimes they committed, using people's social security numbers without permission, as well as the data breaches from Equifax, TransUnion, Experian. And what about other major corporations that's come out? Best Buy in the past, Targets, had these data breaches. And you got to ask the question, who has the financial means to hire people to do this type of work that deals with hacking and the time on their hands? Who has the funding to do that? And is this happening by coincidence? Something to think about. Dorsey, you're on to something. Yeah, you see? But they want you to believe that their facts matter, that they're exposing fraud. But they want to say it's the SCs out there, it's them. They're causing the problem. But Wells Fargo just settled a $3 billion lawsuit. Something to keep in mind, by the way. But they want to point the finger over there. Yep. Oh, and that happened to be one of the last points I brought up. I'm going to skip the other one. Yep, I went over that point 11. I skipped 12. I kind of went over 12 in a way. But that was actually the last point that I brought up. Now I'm going to get to the chat section. I had gone over this, had re-aired. I actually did a video or talked about this in the past, by the way, about Wells Fargo. And even I forgot to mention Chase Bank some time ago. Remember, was found, there was a cargo ship that was seized by a port authority or by ATF or law enforcement. Remember, was caught carrying drugs on it. It was owned by a hedge fund. They said owned or controlled by Chase Bank. This was actually reported on by mainstream media, several outlets. May not have gotten a lot of attention, but I did see the articles, by the way. And this happened with Bank of America some years ago too. So something to think about. Like, the banks which are up under the Federal Reserve are in cahoots. But behind the scenes, there's people like puppeteers pulling the strings, by the way. So we want to remember, these are entities. These are business entities or trusts, which are forms of entities, organizations. But it is people behind the scenes pulling the strings, like the puppeteers, by the way. And they fall up under just like the credit unions. I contacted Michigan First Credit Union some years ago because I told a friend of mine, him and his wife banks there. I used to bank with them many years ago, and I actually called them up. And the representative admitted that she said, yes, they are a member under the Federal Reserve Bank. This was many years ago. I called them. So that's been confirmed, by the way. So hopefully you all enjoyed this video that I went into the details so far to prove our secret SN or private SSN TDA accounts real. You know, I'll let you be the judge. But yes, in my opinion, and it's a massive cover-up. But I think I've gone over enough. This is one of the most powerful videos I've done on this topic as far as the notes that I've compiled to give you guys to look up. So I'm going to get to the chat section now, by the way. Excuse me. So thank you for joining me, watching. If you're just joining me, Jada Lynn says, caught you live. Thank you for joining. Supreme says, yes, StatCom. Supreme L says, facts. Supreme L says, all you have to do is look at the Federal Reserve Act of 1933 and HJR 192. Yes, namaste. Thank you for confirming. Brother, appreciate it. I need that. They took the gold in exchange for credits, and they caused the bankruptcy. Yes, look up the Federal Reserve Act of 1913. This was also encoded in the movie Wizard of Oz, by the way. And the book was written in 1914. And when the book was written, Dorothy had silver slippers. And they said when she followed the yellow brick road, according to the book that was written, that symbolized the silver following the gold out the country. Because when the Federal Reserve, when the bankers met secretly at Jekyll Island, this is why G. Edward Griffin's material is accurate. Don't listen to that gatekeeper out there spewing those lies. The audio he did, the book, Creature from Jekyll Island, was real. It's based on the Federal Reserve Act of 1913. This is the history. And how before they set up the Trading with the Enemy Act of 1917, before the bankruptcy of 1933, and then dealing with even prior to the Social Security Act, even the Securities Act, which was separate around the 1930s. Then you have to look up the Erie Railroad versus Tompkins case of 1938. Erie Railroad versus Tompkins case in 1938 that changed the majority of these courts in this country from common law to statutory. De facto, that's the actual term, under color of law, colorable courts, where they have created plausible deniability, where judges and lawyers can act like they don't know what you're talking about. When you refer to the in lingus, well, that's the actual proper legal term. If you say straw man, and they say, oh, you're talking that UCC stuff, get out of here with that. They're using plausible deniability when they pull it. I had a lawyer do that years ago at one of my jobs when they started garnishing my wages illegally for a student loan. By the way, and I said in this state, Michigan, it's illegal wage garnishments. I had the state statute. I didn't have it at that particular time, but years later I got it. The state statute's MCL 600.6231. That stands for Michigan Compiled Law 600.6231 states the garnishment has to be, in order for it to be legitimate, has to be signed off by a judge or is voided pursuant to, by the way, wage garnishment. So I had a lawyer who was trying to play this game. All that UCC stuff, he's using, judges do this to plausible deniability. Now, some of them will go by the laws. I hear in the federal courts, they go by the Constitution a lot. But there's still a process where they've been captured under statutory admiralty, which is military. A maritime is law of the sea. So when you see that flag in the courtroom with the gold fringe at the top, that deals with admiralty, which is military, a maritime, by the way. But there was a history to how this stuff was set up. And you have to look up the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, the history behind that. Look up Edward G. Griffin's material, The Creature from Jekyll Island. Do a Yahoo or Google search. See if there's information on YouTube, by the way. But you want to research that. Research the documentary Money Masters, Monopoly Men, by the way. Changes on the Horizon. These are documentaries that should still be on YouTube. You can watch for free. Say A for V is a negotiable instrument. Yes, Supreme, you are correct. The feds, laugh out loud. Yep, the Wizard of Oz, you hit the nail on the head. Supreme L Bay says, it's all hidden in plain sight. Yes, sir. Facts. Erie Railroad, you on point, my brother. Thank you. Well, guys, I see I've gone over a lot. I want to thank you guys for allowing me to be your host. If you enjoy the type of content that I put out, the material, you are welcome to subscribe to Dorsey's Resource. Please hit the notification bell in the lower right-hand corner. So whenever I put out new content or videos, YouTube will notify you. If you want to follow me, I'm on Facebook at Dorsey's Resource, just like it's spelled on here. I'm also on Twitter at Dorsey's Resource. Of course, obviously on YouTube at Dorsey's Resource. I'm also on Minds.com, by the way. And I might have to post the link for my Instagram account. I'm not on there as much, but you get to see the other side of me, other things, hobbies that I'm into, things that I've done. By the way, just to see the other side, is Dorsey's Resource _ 2019 on Instagram. By the way, I probably will have to post a link because you guys might not be able to find it in the search. Some people tell me when it's specific because it wouldn't let me put when I created it how I have it on here. So Supreme L Bay says, I love you, bro. Stay safe. Appreciate you. Thank you. Troy Scipio says, Big Troy 56. Okay, thank you for joining. So get ready to shut things down, guys. I want to leave you with these cliches, these sayings. One from Currency, I got from Currency 365. Real Legends Never Die. Check him out. He shared my videos in the past. Good fellow brother, ally. We got to support each other as content creators. Rest in peace once again. I always keep forgetting when I say Kobe, and there was other people who died as well. The coach Atabelli, rest in peace of Black Mamba, his daughter Gianna, the pilot. You know, I'm still shook over that, by the way. My most sincere condolences go out, by the way. You know, in that area, California area, we lost Nipsey Hussle. And he had a quote, by the way, the marathon continues. And the words at an award show I saw, his significant other at the time, Laura London, she said, the marathon will continue. And yes, the marathon will continue. That's why I'm covering these TDAs. This was like a recap. I went over the cover-up to go over the evidence. So you guys out there, thank you for joining me. I appreciate you. I'm your host, John Dorsey. Until next time, guys, stay woke. Deuces.